What up, what up, what up, football fans all over the world? It's your boy Mac the Giants fan here with my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for that real deal NFC East round up. Punch that intro. What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Real Deal NFC East Roundup. I am Matt the Giants fan here with my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas, man. How you doing today, Adam?
I am good. Welcome in the chat, Kenneth. I am doing real well. We are now a few weeks out from the regular season, and you're starting to get that lather, that buildup of just football being here and finally being in our living rooms, enjoying beverages and foods and fantasy football galore. So I'm excited. I can't wait. And I'm excited to talk about a couple games that we had. Football's back, baby.
Yes, it is. Going out, man, in the morning and feeling that little brisk little taste of autumn creeping in, coming in a little bit, man, Woo! You know it's almost football season. When you feel that, start feeling that little autumn breeze starting to creep in a little bit, you know it's almost football season. What is going on? Lou, Big Lou from G Nation, man. Welcome to the chat, bro. Says, yo, OBJ is a giant. He still got some work to do, but his chances look a little better.
But we'll get to him in a little bit.
Yes, sir. Let's get started with these Dallas Cowboys this week, man. And they played the Arizona Cardinals last week in preseason action, man. Won the game 34-13. No, that doesn't really matter. Still not showing any of their starters out there in the preseason, man. Just letting all their backups battle, man. I guess their biggest backup battle they got going on is the quarterback, Joe Milton, Sam Howell. Joe Milton seems to be, seizing a little stronghold on that job, man. What's your thoughts on the Cowboys, man?
I think the Cowboys have some depth on their team. You're starting to see that. They always seem to do this in the preseason, though, blow teams out, inferior teams like the Cardinals, who, let's be honest, the Cardinals are going to be awful this year. But at least, they might have a coach. You can see that Cardinal team can buy in a little bit. Obviously, they got a lot of work to do in terms of getting depth, and they're in disarray, but they do have some talent over there. The Cowboys, it's interesting to watch Joe Milton and the progress. Remember, he came in last week and they started Sam Howell over him. And he came in this week and I think he got the nod over Sam Howell. And he outplayed him. And I know that we don't want to take much out of preseason. But here's the thing about preseason that we need to understand. Guys get reps. If they produce in a preseason game, we got to look at that. I mean, if you think about, if you're a Giant fan, Victor Cruz, he didn't get noticed until he was in the preseason. And eventually it translated on the field. Does that mean Joe Milton is going to go on to be a great quarterback? No, but you know that he can at least play in the league with what he did against these guys who are trying to make a team. Now, do I want him as my backup quarterback at the moment? Not really. But if you're a Cowboy fan, you got to be happy with how he came along since last season to this season. Does that mean you want Dak Prescott on the shelf for a long time and he's going to lead this team? No. But the progress and maturing in the offense to kind of do what he did this week is kind of what I agree. They're not going to be good if he's out. What I'm saying is he has rose to a competent backup. I know that's not much that we want to talk about, but I can see him doing some things for the Cowboys and being at least exciting for them if Dak Prescott goes down. Doesn't mean he's going to win games, but I think he clearly took a step forward in the argument for the second string quarterback battle. As for Sam Howell, I don't know what's happened to this guy, man. Every time I look at Sam Howell's body language, I feel like he just doesn't want to be in the NFL. I think he's just doing it because he knows he's like good enough to be in the NFL and doesn't want to be in the UFL, but he's making enough like that. That's what I see in Sam Howell. I think is it the commander factor? Was he ruined by football so much that he can't do anything? I just feel like he's had a chance to kind of bounce around the league and go to teams and kind of rebuild themselves. And sometimes you see guys that are doing it. You look at Drew Lock with Seattle, you clearly can see that he's beating out Milroe in the quarterback two battle in Seattle. He just is playing a little bit better than Milroe, right? So I'm not saying Seattle is going to be a good team without Sam Darnold, but what I'm saying is you could see that Drew Lock is a capable backup to kind of function in the offense. Sam Howell doesn't even look like that. Like, he doesn't even look functional in the offense. Now, I understand he's bounced around from team to team, but this guy in college was, when he was going in, was arguably a good prospect, and then, fell off at North Carolina. Then he goes to Washington, has his season, bounces around there, and he lands in the Cowboys, and he gets the nod to be the number 2 quarterback. And I think that Joe Milton outplayed him. And, it's just it's interesting to see and interesting to watch both their journeys in the NFL, where Joe Milton came in, all he was a rocket arm, can't do anything else, and you're starting to see him progress, whereas Sam Howell came into the league and had a decent rookie year, all intents and purposes, for a young quarterback, right? You don't want the 20 touchdowns, but we've had many quarterbacks that have started out like that and ended up being good. He's never really recovered from that. And his body language, when I look at him, he just looks sad. He just looks like the sad face. Like you said, a sad face emoji. That's what he just looks like. He's just like, so just unhappy. And I don't know, man. So
yeah, it says Joe Ferry says the Seahawks had him. What's going on too, by the way, in the chat, Joe Ferry's, man. But he says Seahawks had him and they had to play him, and they said he wasn't even ready to play and had to cut him like Manziel style, 0 prep. That's embarrassing. Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. He doesn't like. Yeah. I feel like he doesn't like football. Like, then don't play.
Appreciate it, bro. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's crazy. But as far as in training camp, Caleb Downs, man, got his first interception of training camp, courtesy of Dak Prescott, picking off Dak Prescott, man. Caleb Downs, he hasn't really played too much in the preseason. He only played a little bit of snaps in the first preseason game. Didn't play at all here Saturday against Arizona. You haven't heard anything more about Caleb Downs' development?
That he's as advertised. A lot of people thought he was a top 10 pick, and he dropped one spot out of the top 10, but arguably some people had him as one of the top players in the draft, if not one of the highest players coming out of the draft, right? So he is living up to that hype so far right now. We'll see what happens come maybe week 1 or 2 if he can, but I'm hearing good things. He's covering receivers out of the backfield. He's making plays, and it just kind of brought a different energy to the Cowboy defense that they haven't had in a while. So, and that's what you want out of your first-round pick, is you want to kind of see him come out there and not look lost, and that's what he's not looking like. He's not looking lost. I mean, Dak Prescott getting picked off is a big deal, but Dak getting picked off by Caleb Downs is a bigger deal, especially if you're the Cowboys and you're trying to, build up some hype around this rookie who doesn't really need the hype. Let's be honest. You know Caleb Downs. I know Caleb Downs. We're all familiar with who he was coming out of the draft. And so far, he's worked well in this defense. I think this defense is utilizing his skill set very well. I think their defensive coordinator, I forget where he came from, but he has a history with, I think, some DBs. And you're going to see him fly around the ball and make plays. I think he's going to be all over the field. I think he's going to line up in the slot. I think he's going to line up a corner a little bit. I think he's going to line up as free safety, strong safety. I think they're just going to utilize him as a weapon and get him on the field and find mismatches for him because I just think he's that good of a player. Now, again, I wasn't happy with him at 5, but at 10, it was a different story, right? Here he is. I think he's going to bring energy to the defense the Cowboys haven't had in a while. Now, what the Cowboys fans are hoping he's not is a safety that they hyped up years ago by the name of Roy Williams. I don't know if people remember good old Roy Williams out of Oklahoma.
The horse collar tackle. That's where that rule came from. Him.
He did not tackle people properly because he was not as advertised. And when he came in, he was not good. And I don't want to see Caleb Downs go down that route, but I'm sure Cowboy fans have that in the back of their mind where let's hope this guy is not the next Roy Williams. I don't think he's going to be. I have a bad feeling we're going to be hearing Caleb Downs' name a lot for the next 8 years at least, and Giant fans and Eagle fans and Commander fans are all going to be like, "Dang it! Why did we let this guy go to the Cowboys? Why couldn't the NFL step in and block this?" So, but we'll see. But from what I'm hearing, he's having a good camp.
Joe Ferry says, "Have you heard anything bad about any first-round pick on any team?" I actually have. We'll be talking about one in a few minutes.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, that seems to be everybody's whooping boy. Already people already even throwing the B word out there on them after just 2 preseason games. I don't know. It's crazy to me, but we'll talk about that in a minute. It says Caleb Downs is supposed to be like a football genius. I'm hearing good things about it. Hearing he's a really smart player. And he's got good instincts. I mean, top prospect, man. I mean, like I said, I wanted him.
Both.
I was upset. Yeah, both Roy Williams, and they had them both. Yeah, they were stuck with both of them. The Dallas Cowboys were.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
Both Roy Williams. Yeah, the defensive one, man. They had to make the whole. That's why we had the horse collar penalty because of him, because he was just tearing people's knees up. Ask Terrell Owens about him.
He never.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, they still have Deron Bland to CB1. Right. I understand that, and I'm not saying their defense is going to be crazy great. But from what I'm hearing out of their camps and what they're doing, they're flying around to the football. They like what this guy is implementing, and he might be the one competent defensive coach they've had in a long time. Where we do like Dan Quinn, but his defenses kind of fell apart throughout the season. I'm not sure what this guy's going to bring to the table in terms of what we see, but I do think what the things they're telling from Cowboy camp is that he's having a lot of good influence on them, and he's really bringing a different energy that they haven't seen in a while, and they're buying in. And whether you want to believe Von Miller has it, he doesn't have to do anything in this defense. He has to come in, run around and tackle and get a sack. Like, it's going to be. I think they're an improved team. They kind of scare me a little bit overall, just because they don't feel like the Cowboys of old. And I don't want to anoint them anything, but they're just something weird that there's not a weird energy. But if you're a Cowboy fan, you're probably feeling good about this team for the first time in a long time. Really feeling good. And I'm not talking about because people are anointing them. They just have a lot of talent when you look at their roster, and you're seeing it play out in these preseason games with the depth. Obviously, their starters are top of the line in terms of their receiving game and their interior off the line, which brings me to something interesting. The Cowboys defense. I don't know if I want to talk about this now or later, but since we're on the Cowboys, people keep bringing up when playing the Cowboys that it's good to pounce on them early, especially like the Giants, because their defense is going to be in disarray. Well, if you're a Cowboy fan and you're looking at your opponents coming up, why wouldn't you say the same thing about the Giant defense against the Cowboy offense, right? Because if you look at the one weakness of what the Cowboys were, they couldn't stop the run, their defense was bad. And continuity is the thing that's going to make or break their defense, right? Meaning like everybody kind of flowing together. Well, if you're a team like the Giants or a team that they're playing and we have a new coach, you have that same question marks on your defense against their offense. And when you look at their offense has been a juggernaut. They have been pretty good for the last few years, and this last 2 years under Brian Schottenheimer, they've scored like 27 points a game. So if they can do that, still score that 27 points a game offensively, and defensively they get into the bottom of the teens, 18, 19, we could be talking about a possible playoff team with the Cowboys. I mean, it's not in the realm of possibility. That offense last year was a track meet. If you could outscore them in games when they were kind of even against teams that were, not high-rated defenses, teams that were kind of okay, they used to boat race teams. And you saw what the Giants did. They scored points back and forth, bing, 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 bing. Now, if this defense could make a few more stops, a few more turnovers, and have playmakers like Caleb Downs coming through, they might be fighting for a wild card spot at the end of the year. So,
what is going on in the chat too, though, man? Appreciate you stopping by, man. As always a pleasure, man.
Always a welcome guest on this show.
But that's what it's about. Like you said, the offense for the Cowboys that's already a proven commodity. You know what I mean? It's all about this defense for them to take that next step, honestly, because they're like you said, their offense has nothing to prove. And speaking of their offense, I mean, we haven't seen any of them in the preseason at all yet. But all the practice reports, Dak Prescott's got it cooking, man, with CD and George Pickens, especially. George Pickens is just killing Cowboys camp right now, man. Just he's every day they're just like he's
man on a mission,
just doing things. So they're gonna have to really figure out. They're gonna have to get him locked up, man, before because he's just gonna keep getting more and more expensive as longer this season goes on, man. He's gonna just keep it. What is going on in the chat, Ludwig?
You know what's funny? Wan'Dale Robinson is on a team that's not that good. And we talked about him in the draft. And here we are now. And who are we talking about? Who are we talking about that I banged the table for years ago? The one, the only George Pickens, who now is poised, barring health, to blow the league up. The man wants to get paid. And he's going to play like a man with hair on fire. So if you have fantasy, and I might do this, my first pick is going to be George Pickens because you already know that he's lock it in right now. He's getting at least 1,200 yards and at least 10 touchdowns. Lock that the fuck in. Okay, lock it in. And I will rage about Wan'Dale Robinson because I was one of the ones who called up people and was like, we need to get George Pickens. And everyone's like, George Pickens? And he's not going to be good. He's from Pittsburgh. It must be the Pittsburgh system. Guess what? Boy's on a franchise tag right now, and he's about to tear up the damn league. And I know the Cowboys don't have the greatest defensive players in the backfield, but when people are talking about how dominating you are, you got to think this guy comes in with an edge already, and now you're going to dangle, the carrot of possibly being the highest paid receiver in the game in front of him with a quarterback who farts 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. That guy has 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns every damn year when he's healthy. And now you're giving him a team where a man's possessed. He's got a run game behind him. He's got a decent tight end group, and George Pickens with a mission. Who's a man on a mission. I don't see Wan'Dale being on no damn mission. Where's Wan'Dale's mission? They're not even talking about the damn Tennessee Titans offense being any good. They're not even talking about that. But George Pickens, who went from being a nobody in Pittsburgh to a somebody with the Cowboys, is here now. And he's going to be tearing up the league. Barring injury, I'm picking him first in my draft.
Did that actually happen? That was, and they were in the same draft, and that was a thing where we took O'Shane Zimenez and Max Crosby was still available. Cheebers, creepers, man.
Mac had to cut AC's mic when the Giants took O'Shane Zimenez over Max Crosby.
I mean, I wasn't making content then, but damn, I didn't even
listen.
I would have crazy.
Remote throwing days, okay, a lot of remote throwing days, and I remember talking to somebody. I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but we were talking about Wan'Dale Robinson being drafted. And I'm sitting there, and
you hated him from the second his name got called. You hated that.
I was like, because I read about it, they're like, oh, he's a 5th-round pick. He's got some gadgety skills. And they had George Pickens, they're like arguably a first-rounder, but due to like getting in trouble with the police or having some like legal troubles, he was dropping to the 2nd round, right? And I'm like, get that guy. We need that guy. We need him. And he was on the board. And here we go with little Wan'Dale, guy who was converting from running back to a receiver who's 5 foot nothing, okay? And this guy, George Pickens, is a guy that you want. You throw the ball in the back of the end zone. We were waiting. Look what Malachi Fields did. George Pickens would have been that guy. And now, imagine George Pickens and
maybe. But we got to remember what George Pickens would have came to. He would have came to a New York Giants team that was a mess. Is that what he would have came?
He would have performed still.
I'm not saying he wouldn't have. I wouldn't say he wouldn't have performed, but I don't know. It's hard to tell because this team was a mess. Daniel Jones was a mess.
Malik Neighbors got 1,000 yards, with 3 different quarterbacks throwing them the damn ball. Okay,
Yeah,
if you're that good, you're going to find a way to make plays.
Maybe. I mean, I agree. I do agree with that. I do agree. But this team was a mess, and maybe he wouldn't have been able to stay in a proper headspace dealing with all the mess that would have been going on around him. Is what I'm saying.
I would rather have taken that than Wandale.
Well, look, come on. All right, I'm going. You know, I'm gonna defend my little Smurf. I'm going to defend my little Smurf. I mean, when Nick Neighbors went down a season ago, Wandale absolutely stepped up. He absolutely stepped up. He had his best year of his career, and he got overpaid in Tennessee. Look, I can't take it away. I can't knock the kid. I mean, he stepped up and did what he had to do, and he's given us some decent moments over the years. He's given us some decent moments. He's given us some weird ones too, but he's given us some decent ones over the years.
A decent moment he's given us. A couple corky touchdowns or whatnot.
He's had a couple of big games along the way. Yeah, he showed promise his rookie season. You just never liked him from the second his name got called. I remember I was on the stream with you, Adam. The second his name got called, you were absolutely furious. You were just furious from the second they said Wandale Robinson.
Listen, he's not going up with my top 5 Giants of all time.
Well, of course not.
I would have loved to have seen, George Pickens here and him being mad about getting the ball. Right, not getting the ball and calling out his quarterback for stinking. It would have been like, all right, maybe we do have a problem here, right? Or maybe it would have elongated Daniel Jones' career because he wouldn't have to think anything. All he had to do is throw it to George Pickens, get him the damn ball, right? But we don't have it. It's like when we could have had Barkley and Odell together, and we traded Odell when we had after their first season together. We never got to see the manifest. And so all I'm saying is a guy that I wanted, a guy that should have been here, is now on a team that we all hate. And he's going to have a damn chip on his shoulder, and I don't want to be on the other end of that. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you, man. I hear you. But let's just wrap them up in a minute. The Cowboys on Friday, they're playing New Orleans Saints. I don't know. It's game 3 of the preseason. What's your thoughts? I mean, they haven't played their starters at all through the preseason, really at all. I mean, a couple of them a couple of the guys on defense at least. None of the offensive starters I think have played at all in preseason. And you think it will be, good? They got their guys at least a little taste of something before they're going into the season, man? Or you think they're just going to stick to what they've been doing and just continue on the same path?
It's tricky because I've been thinking about this across the league. This is league-wide. This is not just Cowboy-related. I'm missing something here with these preseason games. Because remember, cut-down day is on Sunday. So what's the point of putting out Dak Prescott if I'm here trying to figure out who's going to be on the back end of my roster showcasing players, right? Because right now you would think that they would want to showcase. Now, if I'm the Cowboys, I know this offense. I know Dak Prescott can perform in this offense. I know CeeDee Lamb has been in this offense. I don't necessarily need to play them this week. Would I play them? If it were me, yes, I would play them because I don't want you to be the first, the Giants to be the first team that you play. But they may look at the Giants and say, they don't need to worry too much about that. And so so they might not be able to look at that like that, so they might not play him. I think be consistent. I don't think I think the starting offensive line might play. Javonte Williams might play, but I don't think the 2 receivers will play. I don't think the quarterback will play. And outside of that, maybe the running back, but I think you still have a lot you need to find out with Terrence Steele, right? You still need to find a lot out with Guyton, even though they're technically your quote-unquote starters, right? There's a battle going on with them. So that is really what I would think they're going to see. I don't think they're going to start anybody, but if they do start somebody on offense, it's going to be the O-line because they still have some battles they want to take out. Now, it won't be long. It'll probably be – and remember, they did get into a fight with the Saints a few weeks ago, so you may not want to, heat that up too much, but you should give at least your O-line and maybe Javonte Williams some burn. Other than that, I don't see them. Their skilled position players are so valuable, right? CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, that is an advantage for them every game. Every game they go in, those 2 guys are healthy. Defensive coordinators have their heads on a swivel because they don't know what to do. So I don't expect them to play. They haven't played all year. And one of the main factors I don't think they're going to play is because they played in the offense last year and it's not a new system that they're installing. That's the only reason I would be okay with it. But you know me, I think everyone should play.
Well, if I'm coaching any team, they're playing. I mean, I'm playing guys in the preseason because that's how you get better at football is by playing football. You can get hurt at practice tomorrow. I mean, look at what happened with the Giants yesterday with Calvin Austin. He got hurt in that damn non-contact drill yesterday in practice, out for the damn season. If it's God's will, it's God's will. You're playing football, and especially for the offensive lineman, that's imperative because you're not getting the proper work in practice. You need that game work for real, and you can't get that at practice. You can simulate all you want at practice, but it's never going to be the same as what you get by playing an actual game. I'm not saying go out there and give me 4 quarters in the preseason. Of course not. But I'm just saying you got to get some work, man. I feel like you can't. That whole the injury thing, the injuries can happen at any point in time. They're going to happen when they're going to happen. Whether it's in the first week of the regular season, whether it's in the last week of the preseason, whether it's at practice, they're going to happen if they're intended to happen. Nobody can stand in the way of God's will, and if that's what it's meant to be, that's what's going to happen, man.
Well, I think
that's just how I feel about it.
I think a lot of these teams are doing the stupid joint practices and using that as kind of a scrimmage almost, where they're utilizing that as more of their games and that they can do that. And then the preseason games become more of a factor of just allowing their young players to play, right? So if you're getting your work in against, let's say, the Rams, right, or the Saints that they played, and you're playing your starters against their starters, moving up and down the field, kind of having like a scrimmage more so than a practice, then hilarious, by the way. But if you're gonna, have those practices be your main focal point of your evaluations of your team, then maybe that's what they're doing. I agree with you. It's different. That practice to me is a controlled environment. So regardless of if they had the joint practices with the Rams, I still believe, like you're saying, you need the cadence out there. Who's running what, the feel of the game, the timing of it all. I know it's quote unquote an exhibition game, but I'm going to reveal something here. Preseason, the Commanders came out on the wrong side of the field. That's the type of shit that you need to do and iron out in the preseason. They had to run across the field and set up on the other side against the Lions coming out of halftime, which is a ridiculous thing. And we'll get to that deeper. So what I'm saying is, I think it's also imperative for coaches, how they call games, players, to uniformity. This is how we're going to come out. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to stand. This is how we put our hand. This is what we do. You know what I mean? Like, to get that in their head and ingrained so you're prepared. Whereas, like I said, week 1, you're already jacked through the roof, but now you have to you're not in game shape. You have to now get in game shape. That's where you have a lot of injuries happen because guys are not hitting as hard. Although this practice for the Cowboys has been pretty intense. So I would say that I would just say that you need to play it more so than these joint practices.
Absolutely, man. I gotta agree with that. But it's enough Cowboy talk, man, for one show. You know what I mean? Over here, that's enough Cowboy talk for right now. Let's get to the Washington Commanders, man. Let's talk a little bit of Washington Commanders camp, man. And right now it's all about Jaden Daniels pretty much over there, man. They played in the preseason game a little bit, and it didn't look good. I mean, it was pretty ugly. He only threw one pass, and I mean he played just one series, and he took, I think, he took a pretty big hit at one during that series. What's your thoughts on the Washington Commanders, man?
Well, everything coming out of their camp, they're awful, they're bad, their offensive line can't block, and after watching them, I think people are getting a little upset about their O-line. The O-line wasn't the one that gave up the sacks. It was mostly the tight ends, but that's not something that you want to hear coming out of camp that you're kind of struggling. But again, this is a new offense, a new offensive system, a guy who's never called plays or has really been an offensive coordinator at all, and this is what's coming out right now. And the lack of preparedness, I think this team's I hate to say this, but if they don't get their act together, they seem like right now a team that's dead man walking. However, their defense has shown a little juice to it. They have made some plays and made some stops here and and there have been some improvements. You're not hearing really too many complaints on that side of the ball. What you're hearing is that the offensive line is atrocious, and they're running for their lives back there for Jaden Daniels. Now we'll see what happens when the regular season comes, if they can shore that up and figure out how to play ball control, because I think they have a running back in that Allen kid. I just like the way he runs. I think he's their best runner between the tackles in their stable of running backs, and he really impressed me in the game, especially one run where basically the line was closing in on him. The lines were closing in on him, and he looked like he wasn't going to – it was only going to be a 1 yard game. Then he kind of burst through the hole and broke some tackles and kind of got like an 8 or 9 yard gain out of it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. I didn't know he had that little burst of speed and then speed. So, I think that's what they would need to neutralize pass rushes and kind of get your offensive line going. If they can figure that out, and, they're going to have a lot of time. There definitely will be a lot of waiver wire claims for them come this offseason. They're going to have 2 weeks to get some guys in here. I wouldn't be surprised if they make some more moves for that offensive line. They just made one for DJ Humphries, but they're going to try to get their top 5 guys in there. Remember, they are playing with some backups in there, but this is a cause for concern and something that you want to keep monitoring as the season progresses. Now, if you flip on the other side of the ball, I did think that their defense hit a little harder than I've seen them hit in a while. Yes, they were going up against Josh Dobbs and whatnot, but they made Dobbs' life miserable at some points. Now, Dobbs did contain and run, for a touchdown against them here and there, but they showed a little bit more zest to their game than I've seen. Some of the things that concerned me in the game are, one, how the hell do you come out on the wrong side of the field at halftime? Like, when I heard that from the announcers, like, oh, they just have to stop the play because Washington came out and lined up on the wrong side of the field. How in the world do you do that? You go in there, these are things you prepare for, and they're like, oh, it's preseason. No, it's preseason for the Miami Dolphins head coach because he's never done this before. You're talking about Dan Quinn, who's been a head coach in this league for prominent franchises. You would think he would know to tell the guys to be on the correct side of the field when they would come out for friggin' the second half. This is the things that alarm me if I'm Washington. If I'm Washington, these are the things that concern me this deep into preseason. That we're doing this, that they had to change sides of the field because they didn't know what side of the field they were on. That's not acceptable things that I want to hear if I'm a Washington Commander fan that my team is doing. Not to mention the fact that my tight ends can't block for shit. They just can't. Now, I like 85 and what he can do. I think he's going to be a stat merchant in terms of the underneath game for the Commanders. So if you want to stash a guy on your bench as a tight end, I would look for him. I think he's going to get a lot of checkdowns in this offense because of how Jaden Daniels is going to be deployed. Their backup situation is really Marcus Mariota, but they had 2 guys who probably won't see the field much, and Sam Hartman and some other guy named 16. I don't really know who he was, but they were both battling it out, and you didn't really get to see anything. But Antonio Williams, he showed something. I mean, if you like the rookies of Washington, they're giving you something. They're doing a little something. Even Sonny Styles, I know he's had his ups and downs. He's going to have that. He's in growing pains. He has, he's a linebacker learning a new system. But I think they're going to be a solid unit, and I think they've got some promising pieces to look forward to. But if they can't block anybody, it's not going to matter who's on the outside between Diggs, McLaurin, or Williams. You really got to be able to protect him. And I think if they can get a run game with Allen and maybe Rachaad White and a few other guys, I would think, Allen's going to be the bell cow. If you can get him to run downhill, I'm telling you right now, that'll change the game for the Commanders, regardless of how your offensive line looks. Because if you run well, now you're in third and shorts, third and long, third and 6, third and manageables. That allows your quarterback to have that autonomy back there to run or pass or do anything like that. And then, of course, if you're in that area on the other side of the 50, it may if he gets like 5 or 6 yards and you need a yard to go, it might entice you to do that because your running game is strong. So those are the things I would be concerned about. Obviously, the practice of the Ravens, they were getting beat up. Their D line was, killing that offensive line. We'll see if that's because of injuries. We'll see what they do. But if I'm a Commander fan, I have to be concerned somewhat with the offensive line. And we've got to see what trades they make or moves they make come Monday morning next week.
You're a Commander fan. You should be absolutely devastated right now with this offensive line performance. I mean, they're in joint practices right now with the Baltimore Ravens. And reading the headlines of today is the Baltimore Ravens have exposed the Washington Commanders' offensive line. I mean, it was bad. Jaden Daniels running for his life all through practice today. I mean, he still ended up finding some good connections. Like you said, Antonio Williams having a great camp. Rookie, they might have found a good, strong rookie in him. And then Kaytron Allen. Kaytron Allen. Who brought that guy up, some weeks back, man? Oh, that would be me, MacDaGiantsFan fan. Let y'all know. Kaytron Allen, man, he's looking like he's going to be the real thing. Now, he's obviously not going to come out and be starting in week 1 against the Eagles, obviously. You know who their starting running back is. Bill is their starting running back for the time being. But Kaytron Allen leading the way and rushing for them through the preseason. For the first 2 weeks of the preseason, just really putting on some good performances. He's looking like a guy that could be a difference maker for this Washington Commanders team. But like you said, it starts up front, and if they can't block anybody, it's going to be a rough day for them. I mean, look at the Giants. I mean, the Giants are bringing up front defensively. I mean, you think Washington's offensive line has a chance against the New York Giants pass rush? Probably not. And then they're going to struggle with the Eagles, struggle with the Cowboys as well. So this division has got some very talented pass rushers and just strong front sevens, man. And this Washington Commander offensive line better get it together, man, big time. Now, you brought up Sonny Styles. You brought up Sonny Styles. And that's the guy that Joe Ferris I was talking about, man. A lot of people seem to be wanting to, throw the B word out already after just 2 preseason games. And I mean, the kid, like Adam said, he's had some ups and downs, but he's a rookie, getting his first NFL reps. And it's like people are already, trying to write him off, talking about like what he's not going to be able to do and what he's not going to be. I feel like it's way too early for that. Way too early. And I still stand by everything the way I felt about Sonny Styles coming out through this process. Now, sure, the fact that Arvell Reese was available, that changed the game for me on draft night. I never talked about Arvell Reese much in the offseason during the draft, during my draft content, because I just didn't think he would be there. So I never really brought his name up. But look, Sonny Styles is, to me, I still think that kid has a bright future, man. He's a hell of an athlete, and people need to go ahead and need to chill out a little bit, man. They pump the brakes a little bit, man. Just the fact that people are already remotely throwing the bust word out there is crazy, man. But we'll see, man. We will see. But this Washington Commanders team, man, they gotta keep Jaden Daniels upright. They can't. And this offensive line right now is just. It's been looking pretty embarrassing. Like I said, they went out there and played one. I think they intended for him to get more work. Was it Thursday night when they played? Thursday or Friday, whenever they played? I think he intended for them. I think the coach intended for Jaden Daniels to get a little more work than he got. But what are you gonna do when your quarterback that spent most of last season on the sidelines, go out there in one series and already gets kind of banged up already a little bit? You had to pull him, man. So he didn't he ended up not getting much work, and I'm not sure what you can do. Like you said. Hopefully, maybe they can look for that waiver wire once teams start cutting down, and maybe they can find some guys to step in there on that O-line, man, and try to put a competent offensive line up in front. I mean, these are the problems I'm used to the New York Giants having, and now I can sit back and watch another team suffer through it a little bit, similar to what the Giants were doing, man. How the Giants had to deal with it, because I love Jaden Daniels. Obviously, like I said, that's my guy, my fantasy quarterback. I need him. I need him to stay healthy, but right now I'm just not sure, man. I'm not sure. This offensive line is terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. They obviously Laramie Tunsil missing. That's already bad enough. But then the center continuously having issues at center too as well, man. Right, and that's just. Whew. I don't know, man. I don't know. This Washington team, they got some work to do, man. And I don't know what their game plan is entering Friday night when they play the Baltimore Ravens Friday night. But with them doing being joint practices now, not likely they had any plans on playing the starters. But I think guys need some work.
Well, I
Seriously.
mean, confidence wise, and we're going to talk about the team that they're going to be facing in a little bit, who I think has kind of changed my narrative. But if you're going to week one, you want something. I feel like you need some type of continuity. And I understand Jaden Daniels is your future, but you need to get him some reps that are positive. Remember, he hasn't played a consistent game of football because of injuries last year. Although he looks a little bit like he had a little weight on his frame, not too much though. You still don't want him taking those beatings. And I think if the offense understands that and can build I think they're going to have to lean on a run game because pass blocking they're going to suck. But what I told you is if you are allowed to put them in shotgun and get in third and shorts because your run game is able to move the piles and get you, even if it's like third and 2, second and 8, you can do little screens and things like that to help your offensive line as they develop. But I do believe they're going to be a big player come waiver wire season, and their offensive line is not going to look like what it's going to look like on Friday or Thursday, Friday or Saturday night, whenever they play, is not going to be what they look like come week one.
Absolutely. Well, Sonny Styles did have a good day of practice today, from what I'm reading here, and like I said, it's just all about him continuing to develop, man. I think you can't put too much pressure on the kid right away. Like you said, it best up here. I mean, yeah, he said Sonny Styles, who knows, but R.L. Reese is already a badass. Yeah, but R.L. Reese is like a cyborg. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even look human. He doesn't even look human. You know what I mean? This guy he's just something different. So
Put me in, coach.
yeah, he's one of those guys. Listening to I don't know what podcast I was listening to earlier today, but they're talking about R.L. Reese and how he asked to be a part of the special teams. They didn't even necessarily have a plan to have him out there on special team on any of the special teams. But he asked, can he be a part of that? This kid, that's how much he just loves. He just loves football. He just wants to be on the field. He wants to be kicking ass. So I don't know. What you got any thoughts on what you expect to see on coming up Friday night as they take on the Baltimore Ravens?
I don't know if you'll see the starters play because if you have a joint practice this late in the year, you're probably not going to play your starters, and especially since you have cut down day being on Sunday. Any games this weekend, you're going to probably want to showcase guys that might be on the bubble on your team that may or may not make it there. So, it is interesting to see what we're going to see. I think you're going to see Sonny Styles play some games. Any of the rookies, I think, that are going to contribute this year. We talked about Antonio Williams, right? I think he'll play some because he's going to be needed in the slot as he ascends to if you're going to make him the third receiver, because right now I think he's going to be receiver number 2, receiver number 3 with them. And he's going to, that's a great spot to be in where you don't have to be the man right now when you have 2 guys in front of him, McLaurin and Diggs. It's going to allow him to kind of ease in. So these reps, I would look for watching him. And then Katron Allen, I think he's had a good preseason. I know, Mac, you mentioned him previous. I don't know if you think he's had a good season. I've liked what he's done the last 2 games I've watched him. I want to watch him this game. All things aside, I think he's their running back 2 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes running back 1 by the end of the year. We're starting to talk about this guy as their starting running back because I just think he's built to take the beating that comes with being an NFL running back. And I think the running backs have, like his stature, have done well in the burgundy and gold for the Washington Commanders. So, and I think he's a guy that runs downhill. And when you have a mobile quarterback with a downhill runner, I think it gives you a little bit more juice in the run game because people need to, it's one thing to have like a Bill, right? And you're running shotgun with him. He's not a guy that's necessarily going to move the pile. I'm not saying he can't run in the tackles, but you're not as afraid of him as a guy like Katron Allen who may take 2 or 3. It took like 8 guys to tackle him on the Lions. You know, when he was getting ahead of steam, there was like a whole team picture at one point. Those guys are just different, and when you add that in with a guy like Jaden Daniels and the play action game, it can really pay dividends. And I think, like Max said, he likes him. I think by the end of the year, Kaytron Allen is gonna be the feature back in Washington.
Well, you know, I agree with that. Kaytron Allen has been he's been absolutely been their bell cow through the first 2 weeks of the preseason, man. And I think this is going to continue this Friday night. Yeah, I think it's going to continue this Friday night.
I know it's against backups, but he was impressive to me.
He's a day 3 draft pick. So the fact he's doing it against backups in the NFL, that's still a very impressive thing for a guy that was a day 3 draft pick. So I think that's, I mean, look, I think he's going to be able to do it no matter who he's going against. I think he just has that kind of ability.
Well, let's look at the other side. They were in a game. The third down running back for the Lions didn't have the same dynamicness I felt like Kaytron Allen did. When I watched Allen, I'm like, oh, this guy deserves to be in the NFL. Well, as some of the other Lions guys, you know, you're like, oh, maybe this guy will make a practice squad. You know what I mean? Like, you could just tell with Allen, it's different. And that's what I mean. And that's why when I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh, there's something about him that'll hopefully, if it translates, we'll be looking at a guy for them that you're going to have a running back for the first time in a long time. And you're like, oh, man, this guy's good.
I definitely agree with that, man. I definitely said I was fairly high on Kaytron Allen through the offseason process. Like I said, I was hoping that he was going to find his way here to New York and add to this running back room. But here we are. Let's move on to Philadelphia, man. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles for a little bit, Adam, man. Getting their receivers back right on time, man. Then the training camp, Mekhi Lemon, Devontae Smith are now officially back practicing with the team, with the offense, getting some work in, man. What you been hearing coming out of Eagle camp, bro?
Well, Eagle camp, they liked what their defense has been doing. They like a lot of their young players on that side of the ball, and so their unit is pretty strong. And their second teamers aren't bad. If you watch that game, they had AJ Epinesa, he was in the game. They had Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He made some plays. And this Eagle team, when I was really watching the game, I'm like, oh, I think we're underestimating them a tad bit, because what I'm seeing with them was the continuity on defense, even with the backups. They're going to have some players that are going to be on other people's squads if they don't decide to keep all of them. They're there. At least I thought defensively they looked pretty impressive against the team that they played. I forgot who they played. I just watched the game off. God, it's eluding me.
They played the Patriots.
Right. There you go. The Patriots. I thought they were, of the two teams, their defense on both sides was giving the Patriots quarterback some difficulties, and they were stopping the run, and obviously they were able to still do what they needed to do, and that's the credit to Vic Fangio. And they were bringing pressure. It wasn't like they were not doing it. I don't understand this adage of, hey, it's preseason, we don't have to show anything. I'm like, why not? Who cares if what you show a blitz here and there? It's about getting repetitions at that, so it's not foreign to you come week one. And honestly, you're going to game plan so many different ways that unless you're like a savant, like a Bill Parcells or a Bill Belichick, no one's really going to care about your blitzes in the preseason. But this is a time where you need to execute those plays. And I thought their defense did that. And there were some guys that made some plays. Kelly Ringo made some plays as well. So I was kind of impressed of what they've done overall. Offensively, I think their offensive coordinator gets it. And what I mean by that is he understands run the football, because when I watched them this week, I saw a lot more heavy running under center. Andy Dalton was under center a lot. They were doing a lot of play action. They were giving the ball, up the gut and really driving home their line. By the way, number 72 is an absolute mammoth. Malik Miller, I think his name, or something like that. Oh my goodness. Him and that right side of that offensive line, like this team finds O linemen. That's what they do. I'm sitting there watching this game, and they're just dominating the Patriots backups. And I mean, I understand that they're backups, but there's one thing to be backups, and there's another thing when you're moving your guy and manhandling on the other side. Like, I get it against 2s and 3s, but it was impressive to watch them do that. And if this rookie that they have on the right side, who is a tackle, right? He doesn't have to do anything. He can come in and be their swing tackle. He can just, relax and let Lane Johnson do all the work. But the Eagles' depth on their line is pretty good. And they lost Jeff Stoutland, but it's as if they haven't missed a beat. If you look at their center that they had in there, 61, and then their whole left side, there was another guard that also was good. They've got 3 guys in their pipeline that, with this aging off the line, if they can understand who they have in the backfield and they can continue doing it, I don't think they're doing the tush push. It was crazy because they're in the game. They had a 4th and 1, and they ran a little 1 yard, or 5 yard curl route to the running back, and the guy got the first down. But I was like, no tush push. Interesting. And to me, that's what I thought about it. Maybe Sean Mannion looked at the tush push and said, "Look, I'm only going to use this when we need to use this. I'm not going to use it at every first down, even though it's an unstoppable play, because there's other things you can do off of that." Now, maybe I'm wrong about it or not. And then another 3rd down, it was a 3rd and short. They were under center, and they ran the ball from under center and got like 4 or 5 yards on a 3rd and short. So I'm like, maybe they won't be utilizing the tush push as much. Maybe that was a Jeff Stoutland thing. I have no idea. But it seemed like their offense, and with the little snippets I've seen, has really started to evolve into something that we might have to be aware of. He may not be as dumb as we think. Like, I don't think he's struggling the same way David Bilal is struggling in Washington, right? I don't hear that coming out of Eagles camp. But what I see the last couple games, because they're auditioning backup quarterbacks as well, is I see a team that ran the ball very well, that there's backup offensive line played pretty well, and they have some young guys in that pipeline that you want to keep an eye on it. If you're a Giant fan or any team that's struggling with the whole line, there may be a guy you want to pluck from that whole line. But I think overall, if I'm an Eagle fan and I'm looking at Sean Mannion, if he can be the same guy I'm seeing in the preseason, the Eagles might actually be a little bit more difficult to defend going forward.
Yeah, this Eagles team, man. Jalen Hurts, they saying, is getting like a lot more aggressive. They said, but his aggressiveness seems to be leading to a little bit more interceptions throughout camp. I don't know if that's something that they should have to maybe necessarily worry about, because this is the time to make those mistakes is in practice. Reek Woolen intercepted him twice today, apparently, and he's a guy that's been absolutely just leveling up throughout camp, man. Reek Woolen, they're starting to becoming really impressed with him. The free agent, I mean, did they get him? I don't know if they got him by trade or free agency, but however they got him.
Free agency.
They got him in free agency. Reek Woolen is apparently really finishing off camp on a high note, and they're really happy with what they're seeing. And then Jalen Smith and Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith are a couple of guys that they're also been very pleased with throughout camp. Said they think those guys really add something to what's going to be a dynamic pass rush, man, for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, and then also working out some plans for Mekhi Lemon, man, the rookie. Did some punt return return reps in practice, as well as there just things they're inserting in a lot of pre-snap motion with them, short area concepts and things like that, figuring out ways how they're going to deploy Mekhi Lemon now that he's healthy and back out there. He's missed pretty much almost the entire training camp thus far, for the most part. But they're coming up with a plan for him, man. And then obviously that backup battle, Andy Dalton and Tanner McKee, man. Tanner McKee, who's going to be the guy to back up.
I think it's going to be Andy Dalton.
Jalen Hurts, man. I guess we're going to get our answers after Friday night when they play Friday against the Cincinnati Bengals Friday evening. We'll probably get some answers, man, because I'm pretty sure, just like the Cowboys, the Eagles haven't been playing their starters this preseason. I don't think that's going to change Friday night.
But that thought I would see that's their team I would be playing. They have a new offensive system, right? You have a new guy coming in making calls. It makes sense for him to play, right? And the dumbest thing I've been seeing this preseason is, again, and I'm sorry, people, this annoys me, is Every time I see an offensive coordinator, he's either on the damn sideline or in the booth. And every time I hear a damn announcer go, "Well, they're trying out the sideline," like what is happening here, people? You either know that you're going to call it from the top or you don't. This he's feeling it out. He's not feeling it out. Like what are we doing here? Like just be up in the booth or don't. Or if you don't, like I don't need to hear about him being up in the booth and then being every week changing and feeling it out. That's irrelevant to me. Just call the goddamn plays and make the damn calls. I don't care if you call them from the moon, okay? But it's not something I need to hear about every damn time. Ooh, Mac is he is a ladies' man. I'm not trying to get him in trouble on this show. I'm not trying to get him in trouble on the show. God forbid his woman's watching, you know. But anyways, keeping it on track, Joe Ferris trying to get us off track here is I just think their offensive coordinator might be the best offensive coordinator they have if he follows the blueprint that got him there, which is give the ball 26. And about the interception with Jalen Hurts, not that I'm defending Jalen Hurts because I think he's going to regress this season. I really do. I don't think he's that dynamic of a quarterback. And we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. But and we have one more guy to talk about who also is not doing well. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. But Jalen Hurts, practice sometimes, like I want to give Freak Woolen credit about what he did. But if you're studying your teammates, right, and you're watching film room and you're going over practice notes and things like that, you want to see the defense now make the plays because if the offense is running the same play and Woolen is getting the cue on who's he going to, it's a lot easier to make that interception. So just take that when you read those. Like maybe he's having a horrible camp, and that could be it too. He could be having a horrible camp, but sometimes I know from familiarity when I played, you know, the defense was easier to queue up on us because they knew what was coming, right? So they understood we're running the same play again, or we're running the same formation, or we studied that formation. And the defense's job is to get better, right? They're supposed to stop you. They're doing their job, but just take that into consideration as well, just so you're not alarmed. Not that I'm defending him, but if you're worried about the interception, sometimes they're tip balls, but if he's getting picked off, just think of the circumstance. That's all. And then the last guy I want to talk about is I hear Eli Stowers is not doing a very good job. I don't know if that's true, if they're trying to hide him. But the rumor is he's not doing very good. But they spent a high draft pick on him. I don't think they're going to give up on him that quickly. I think that would be almost insanity. I don't think I've ever seen a team give up on a guy 4 weeks into his career in the second round pick like that in a long time. Maybe I could be wrong, Mac, but usually those guys kind of stick around for at least a year or two before you.
Well, Eli Stowers, yeah, I think he had a couple catches in their first preseason game. He was targeted a couple of times the other night on a Friday or Saturday, whenever they played. He was targeted a couple of times and didn't come out with a catch in that game. And now he's dealing with a hamstring as well. It's been bad. Have not gotten any real good reports on Eli Stowers throughout Eagles training camp. It's been really pretty much everything's been bad, honestly. People just saying that the Eagles overdrafted him. He was just that he's not looking like a guy that's ready for this moment. And here's something that I'm reading here from a beat reporter. The roughest summer of Eli Stowers has in the roughest summer of the group, man. His development has been slowed by inconsistent play and now a hamstring injury, with current evaluation suggesting he may begin the regular season as a game day inactive. There you go for a second round draft pick, man. That's not something you really want to hear. That doesn't mean that's what it's going to be. Obviously, that's just what somebody's speculating.
Well, I mean, if it is that, that is sad. But as long as he's not cut, right, he still has a chance to maybe play. You know, you never know what happens. It's the NFL, right? I mean, their backup tight end get injured. Next thing you know, Eli Stowers in the game. What will be bad is if Eli Stowers is on the roster and someone gets injured and they bring off some other booty-ass tight end above him, that's when you'll have to be alarmed.
Now, I mean, these guys, like I said, have no idea what their plan is for Friday. But like you said, starters haven't gotten any work. New offensive system. Jalen Hurts hasn't had his two top receivers all of camp basically for the majority of camp, I should say. And here we go, man. I mean, I just don't understand how you cannot give these guys some degree of work out there on the field. This you gotta
Do we know
you
they're not
just
playing?
you said who I don't know. They haven't made any announcements about what they're doing. I mean, I'm
Well,
just
weird
going to
preseason. This has been so weird. Like usually everyone plays game two. Nobody played across the league. Nobody played game two. So what does that mean? Are you not playing game three? Like it is so weird to me this year. I've never seen the preseason done the way they're doing it now. Is it because I think Joe Burrow said this is the latest that they've played in a long time. They have like 2.5 weeks off. So if you factor that in with what you're saying, if they don't play, Mac, they haven't played a meaningful football game since January.
exactly. And you're going to run this new offense out there week one against what looks like a potentially pretty promising Washington Commanders defense. Things could get interesting. I mean, things could get interesting.
The strategy behind it is this for me. If I'm a head coach and I'm going into a game with a team like the Commanders who have a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, and have to find their footing, wouldn't I want to be a little bit more buttoned up on what I'm doing with my actual starters who are also learning a new offense? Like when you're doing that, and it's a very similar thing that we'll talk about with the Giants in a minute, is when you're taking your team that hasn't been, called with the new coordinator against a guy who's also calling new plays. Now it comes down to who's going to make less mistakes or make less mental errors in the game, because there's going to be a lot of new players and new parts going on. But if I'm the Commanders, and I'm not saying that they have, but they've played a little bit more with their starters than you have, they're going to have a little bit more familiarity in what's being called. Whereas you are now going to have to get off the schneid and hope that your team is ready to play, which you haven't had Lane Johnson play. You haven't had a lot of these guys. And I get it for the Eagles. You're thinking big picture. We want them later on in the year. But I always look at it like you're playing football, and now you're not going to play football for almost 2 weeks. So this is a chance for you to get some type of reps in before that long hiatus. Let's be honest. It's going to be a long hiatus. They're going to basically be off. They're going to play the game on Friday. Probably be off Saturday, Sunday. Most teams are not going to report till Thursday or Friday of the previous week to kind of get some game planning in, and then work till Monday, and then get their regular schedule going, next week. And you're not going to play any meaningful football till basically Sunday, the 13th. I'm sorry. It's mind-boggling to me.
Absolutely, man. But let's wrap these guys up, man, because I know we got a lot to dig into with the New York Football Giants, and I want to dig into it. Because these New York Giants, man, obviously the big news out of camp was the New York Giants was the confirmation of Calvin Austin tearing his ACL in practice yesterday. That's unfortunate for that young man. He was having a great camp, and looks like obviously his season is over. Hopefully, maybe he gets another shot and recover, gets another shot, come back next year, and then start the process all over again. It's unfortunate for him. But that's it. It's football. Like I said, it is what it is. You can get hurt in practice the same way you can get hurt in the game. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. It ain't nothing gonna stop it, man. You got to go out there and you got to practice your craft. You got to get and you can't get some real game reps at practice. It's just not the same. Like you said, it's a controlled environment completely, and it's just not the same. You're not tackling your teammates the same way as you're going to tackle another opponent. You're not blocking the way you're going to block another opponent. I mean, offensive linemen, like I said, to me, they don't even really get real work at practice, honestly. They just don't.
Not anymore.
I mean, they're just, not anymore. Not in today's NFL. So, but let's talk about Jackson Dart today, man. Out there cooking, man. 4 touchdown passes in the goal line during the goal line drills. Threw one to Malik Neighbors. Threw one to Odell Beckham Jr. Threw one to Malachi Fields. Threw one to Chris Myers. And I know a lot of people are going to be excited to hear about Odell Beckham Jr. catching a touchdown pass from Jackson Dart, even though it was just in practice. But Adam, what you got, man?
Well, Jackson Dart, it's good to hear that he's scoring touchdowns It's starting to mean that he might start being evolving and getting this offense, which is what you want to see. Again, it's practice, it's controlled environment, so we'll see what happens when the game time happens. But it's good to see that he's spreading the ball around. It's not just one guy getting a touchdown; it's several guys, which I like. I'm excited for Jackson Dart. I'm excited to see what he can do with these weapons, and I'm mostly, a little concerned about the Austin thing because you don't know who's going to be in the slot. I know a lot of people are talking about the man you just mentioned, Odell Beckham Jr., which is, I know we're going to go on Dart, but I've got some things I'm going to point out with Odell. But Dart, to me, has improved over the course of the camp, which is good to see. But again, I want to see him in the game. You know me, I'm not worried about him really that much. But what I am reading is that he has a lot more dynamite throws off script, which is exactly what you love about Jackson Dart. But what we need him to do is be more dynamic in the pocket with his arm. He can do it. I've seen him do it at Ole Miss. I know he can do it from the pocket. It's just a matter of him being consistent with his footwork. And the play action game. I think having a running game is going to help him a lot. I do believe they're going to run a lot of double tight end sets. What I have not heard of is Theo Johnson's availability, but that's something I don't necessarily know about. But getting back to Dart, I think play action is going to help a guy like him, because if you think of Dart and a quarterback popped into my head that he reminded me of if he can do this, it's kind of like Tony Romo. He's got a little Romo-esque to him, where if he can, he'll make great plays, but if he can make spectacular plays outside the pocket and he doesn't have to run around and he's making them with his arm, that's going to be deadly to a defense. It's going to be like you're always going to have to defend, because he's not going to, he can run, he doesn't run, but if he can make an off-script play like he did with Malachi Fields and like he's doing in practice, it's really going to drive up the dynamic of this offense. But I really believe if he can focus on getting his footwork down, doing some, making sure that his play action fakes are good, and really controlling the offense, I think you're going to see a different Jackson Dart here this year, and a guy who's more dynamic, and a guy who's going to win from the pocket, and a guy who's not going to always run anymore. I think they're really letting him know, like, look, we don't care if we play backyard football. We love that. But just make sure that you're controlled about doing it. Don't make stupid decisions and try to run a guy over or do anything like that. So I'm really happy with the way Dart is coming along. Again, we'll wait and see how it plays out on Sundays. Hopefully he's not struggling too much, but it's good to hear from day one at camp when the offense was struggling and then throwing interceptions to now him throwing 4 touchdowns. You've got to be happy as a Giant fan.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another thing to note from the New York Giants, a lot of making moves, man. Transactions, making moves. Last week, obviously, trading Daniel Faalele for a 6th-round draft pick. Then yesterday, turning around and trading Joshua Zudu for a 7th-round draft pick in 2028. Now, the thing about the Joshua Zudu thing is interesting is he's probably having one of his best training camps his whole career. He's looking like a guy that can be a pretty competent NFL guard. After watching them play on Saturday against the Dolphins, they can be a pretty competent guard and a part of somebody's depth piece for any offensive line. Now it'll be the Kansas City Chiefs. And interesting, what do you think about the Giants making moves and acquiring draft capital for guys that, possibly weren't even going to make this team?
Well, that's what we talk about. We always say, hey, we got to get rid of guys, and we always pull guys off. Why'd you make that trade? That guy's going to get cut anyways, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Josh Zudu is trash in most of the Giant fans' eyes, and we just got a little bit of a treasure. Now, I don't know what that 7th-round pick is going to do, but if the Giants want to trade up, that's a pick they can now use in a trade-up scenario in the draft, right? Having more picks, being able to do some things, it makes me believe that there's a lot more depth on this team. Remember, Faalele was brought in, and he was under the Harbaugh regime. So he had 1 year under his belt, and all of a sudden they traded him. Josh Zudu, we knew wasn't going to make this team, but we heard rumors that he was having a good camp, and he was on the block. So guess what? He was moved. The next guy that's probably going to need to be moved is Evan Neal. I think you're going to see a lot more transactions. If you listen to Brandon Brown today, he kind of insinuated that there's going to be more moves to be made. They understand where the market is. So if they know what the market is and they have some depth at some depth positions that they believe can be expendable across the board, which probably would be O-line and some other positions out there, then they're going to make some transactions and they're going to make some moves. And they have right now a lot more offensive linemen than they need, and some guys on there that have some NFL experience that could be used. As you saw, there are many teams that could use an O lineman, and if we have some guys that they deem that they can use, like an Evan Neal, then these are the guys you get rid of. So I thought it was real. I hate to say this. Well, it's not Joe Shane. I'm not going to give him credit, but John Harbaugh leading the way on this has made this transaction happen. If this is Brian Dable, we don't see Josh Zudu getting traded. If this is another coach, I don't think we see him getting traded.
If this is Brian Dable, we still have Josh Zudu backing up Andrew Thomas at left tackle. But but on another, I think honestly, I think with that move with Josh, watching Faalele get traded last week and Joshua Zudu getting traded yesterday, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think that might actually open the door to a path to Evan Neal on this for 53, man. I just feel like he played pretty decent. He played pretty good on Saturday against the Dolphins. I mean, I was watching him out there. I always keep an eye on the offensive line when I'm watching these games because I just like kind of watching big guys in the trenches. And Evan Neal was handling the business out there, man. I didn't see anything bad. I mean, I just didn't.
He's got so. Well, John Harbaugh, listen. If Daniel Falele if Evan Neal reminds him of Daniel Falele, then why am I going to keep the same guy, right? If I already have Daniel Falele on the roster, and he's not going to make the team,
but you don't anymore. But you don't have Daniel Falele on the roster anymore. That's the point.
No. What I'm saying is, I guess what I'm getting at is Daniel Falele and Evan Neal. If you're keeping Daniel Falele, Evan Neal wouldn't have a shot. But because you traded him, maybe it's because you believe in Evan Neal. Maybe you're seeing something in Evan Neal like, hey, look, we have depth now. I don't need to keep Falele around because we already have him on the team, and you can go start somewhere else where you're not going to be a starter here because our starters are in line, but we have Evan Neal. And with John Harbaugh, he likes them big guards. Evan Neal fits that bill. So if he starts to play well, would it surprise you if he's traded? Probably not, because they've already traded Josh Zudu and Falele. But if he's kept, it means maybe they see something in him that he can at least be serviceable. Let's be honest, he's playing against Aaron Stinney and guards like that of that ilk, right? We're not talking about the hog mollies or the hogettes from the commander days back in the day. We're talking about guys who are ascending, but you look at the depth that they have with Marcus Membo, J.C. Davison, right? They like the three guys in Patrick and Hudson as well. So that's already there. And then Evan Neal would be like number 10, right? So, and they need a guy who can play some tackle, who can play some guard because they have 2 or 3 centers already. So I think Evan Neal with this trade has a spot, and 2 guys got let go, right, in his position group. So that gives you an extra chance to make the team. So if Evan Neal plays well on Friday, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the roster, at least the initial 53-man roster going forward. If they deem somebody better in waiver wires and they get somebody they deem better, I could see him being a cut, casualty, but I could see him also making the roster come Sunday. And wouldn't that be ironic?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the depth chart right now, I'm looking at the depth chart here on ESPN.com. Right now, Evan Neal is now the number 2 right guard behind Francis Manoa, listed on the depth chart. I mean, that's not obviously official by no means, but
who's the other? So okay, so let's play this out. Who's the guard behind Runyon?
Aaron Stinney.
So Aaron Stinney, Evan Neal, and Francis Manoa, and John Runyon. So 4 guards. Okay, who's the center behind John Michael Schmitz?
Lucas Patrick.
So who would you keep, Lucas Patrick or Brian Hudson? I guess that's a coin flip right there.
Absolutely, it is. Keeping one of them for sure.
And then
At least.
And then you're keeping J.C. Davison and Marcus Membo. So that would probably be 10 offensive linemen right there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you got to keep at least anywhere from 9 to 10 at minimum.
Right. But the thing is, Evan, it comes down to Evan Neal and Brian Hudson at the end of the day for me, because you can keep Patrick as well. He plays guard and center, right? And you know that JMS is probably going to be banged up for the year, so you're going to need one of those guys. Who do you think might stand on the practice squad? If you deem none of these guys are going to be in the practice, that's why I think Evan Neal has a shot to be traded. Because if you think about it, if he's not going to make the team and you think that there's some value to him, you trade him, and then you can get a guy like maybe a Brian Hudson or a Patrick or even a Kubis if you want. If he makes the practice squad, you'll still have a guard there and you'll still have somebody on there. I think Membo's a lock. If you cut him, he's definitely part of the future. Membo, J.C. Davison are, I never thought I'd say this, I'm happy with the whole line depth. I'm excited about the O-line depth.
Oh, my. It's the best it's been in a long time.
Like, I'm so excited that I don't even care about seeing Illuminor and Runyon anymore. Just insert Membo and J.C. Davison and let's go, right? Let's just go. And we can find the replacements for Andrew Thomas and, John Michael Schmitz next year. But if you get guy like if Brian Hudson, who played pretty admirably, you got to give him credit. He did play pretty good. If he has a chance to make the team, keep 10 linemen. Like that's where you go. Does that mean you keep 7 receivers and things like that? So I'm enjoying it. But let's get to the elephant in the room, and that is the one and the
Well, real quick before we move, because we're talking about the offensive lineman, and there's one more guy that I do want to bring the New York Giant fans' attention, because he's probably not going to make the 53 on Sunday. But he should definitely keep him around for the practice squad. I think he's a guy that could potentially be a guy in the future, man, that can be a difference maker on this O-line. That's one Mr. Ryan Schnarnecki, undrafted offensive tackle out of Kutztown, man. I watched him in the first 2 weeks of preseason, and I like what I see, man. I see a big guy that moves people out of the fucking way. And like I said, I don't think he's quite going to make this roster. I think it's going to be a little too tight for him to make it quite this year. But I feel like he's a guy you need to keep around on this practice squad, keep him in this building, and I think he potentially has a bright future as well. When we talk about offensive line depth.
Well, but to put that on that note, that's a guy that no one's really familiar with, right? You've noticed him. I'm sure the league will notice him, but he's the guy that you're going to sneak on the practice squad, right? He's the guy that you're going to want to keep around, like you said, to be in the system to develop, right? Hopefully he doesn't get plucked from somebody else, and hopefully that you don't have to utilize the practice squad call-ups as much because, you don't want to lose him, but good get to point out, and interesting guy to look into. I'm going to look into him as well. Now that you notice him, I'm going to see his play and see what he does, because maybe he doesn't play that much, or if he's playing too good, maybe they pull him early. That's what they did with Carson Beck in the Cardinals training camp. They were like, "Yo, you playing too good. We cannot keep you out there because we can't."
Yeah, I noticed that.
You say?
I said I noticed that. I noticed that with him. He had came out in that Hall of Fame game and lit it up. And ever since then, it's just like, all right, we got a player.
Like we're gonna keep him. We're gonna keep him at bay. Like he's got to be lighting it up, because why are you not playing him? Either you're gonna trade him or not. I know it's the NFC East show, but it was something I noticed and was interesting to see, and it's something that you got to watch for these preseason games. Like who is playing, who's not playing, who's getting a lot of reps, because it could mean that somebody's getting traded, because again, the numbers game comes to that, right? You want to keep 10 linemen. I can't keep 7 receivers. I want to keep 4 tight ends. I can't keep, 10 DBs, right? And those little guys in the back of the roster, this is where it comes in to play. So now, with that being said, I'm sure we are going to address the elephant in the room in the wide receiver.
Well, you're talking about one Mr. Odell Beckham Jr.?
Yes.
Yes. Odell Beckham Jr. apparently today had his absolute best practice of training camp today, apparently. Caught about 4 touchdown passes on the day in totality, man. And caught a deep one from Jackson Dart. He caught another skinny post from Malik Neighbors with tight coverage on him from Colton Hood. Had him covered, had him in tight coverage, and he still got into the end zone on the skinny post. And apparently he had a couple more. He had one in goal line also. OBJ, man, like I said, with the Calvin Austin injury, it was like it opened a door, man, much more clearer path. And he came out and he kind of responded today, like as if he knows, like, okay, there's my opportunity. Now I got to seize the moment. What's your thoughts on OBJ, man?
My thoughts are that I'm glad that he's getting these reps. I don't know. I mean, because Mooney also had a good practice. Like he's had a good practice. And my question becomes, let's say he makes the team. Is he the sixth receiver? Because if right now I don't believe he's leapfrogged anybody on the top four. Right? I think it's still going to be Fields. I think it's going to be Neighbors. Mooney had his best practice of the year, and there's Slayton now. There is the possibility Slayton could be moved and dealt with. There is that possibility, and maybe that is something that is brewing in the building, and it will come to fruition if you don't see Slayton. Depending on who they play, Slayton played last week. I wouldn't be surprised if he sits, but if he doesn't get any burn this week, that's something to look at. Other than that, if he doesn't get traded, he'll be the fourth receiver, which leaves Braxton Berrios, who I believe is going to take Calvin Austin's spot. And then obviously it would be Odell Beckham Jr., but there's also Isaiah Hodgins had a good practice this week, and Dylan Cambridge has had a steady presence out there. So he's another guy to keep an eye on. It comes down to a numbers thing. And it also comes down to an availability thing. Does somebody want to take a chance on Odell Beckham Jr.? He's easily to be traded than a $12 million Darius Slayton. He's a guy that is on a cheap deal. That if someone come calling, would he be there? Because I still believe he's number 6 of the receivers. And if you track what I think it was Jordan Renan or Dan Duggan, one of these two tracked the receptions this camp. Isaiah Likely has had like 76 receptions this camp. So what does that mean? They're going to him a lot. So again, that means you're only going to probably have 4 guys on there, and that means 5 guys might dress that day because I don't necessarily need to have a 6th guy that doesn't play special teams. This is where my conundrum is. While I like that he's getting first team rep with Jackson Dart and he's doing all right, I'm not doing it at the expense of Malachi Fields and all that. And yes, sure, he made a spectacular grab, but so did Isaiah Hodgins down the right sideline. He had a in coverage one-handed catch, right? So it's interesting story to watch. I still think he's a long shot to make it when it comes down to it. Something tells me he might also be traded. Just a weird feeling out there because they're giving him a lot of burn with the first team, and he is being hyped up and he is being talked about. But the thing that is bothering me a little bit is that we're shining the light on Odell Beckham Jr., and yet there's other guys like Mooney and Slayton and other guys like Fields who are still having good camps but not being talked about on a day-to-day basis. They're still always talking about Odell and what he's done.
Well, and then you got to realize Odell Beckham was once a superstar in this league. So I mean, that's just how that's going to go.
No, I understand, but again, we're talking about a guy who may not even be the number 4 receiver on the team when it's all said and done, right? I'm asking you, do you think he's outplayed Slayton, Mooney, Fields, and Neighbors?
I mean, I can't say that. I haven't seen anything that's indicated that.
And do you believe? Do you believe Jackson is going to be the starting punt returner?
Well, now I do, yeah, absolutely.
And how about slot receiver? Who do you think it's Berrios number 1? And are they moving back? Because Beckham's only way to me on the field to get there is to be the slot receiver. And if you're going to move Mooney in that position and you're going to use Berrios in that position, again, it leaves the number 6 receiver doing basically nothing. And I don't need Odell Beckham Jr. to be getting
Let's put a slight pin in the number 6 receivers because I'm thinking this team has a couple of decisions to make offensively. Like we talked about offensive line, you probably got to keep no less than 9. I think is the absolute bare minimum you can keep. But I think 10 is pretty much where you want to be with offensive linemen on the 53.
How many quarterbacks?
Oh, I mean, they got to do the 3. I guess they got to keep the 3, right? I think that's how the rule is now. Or is that, or is it a third string emergency that doesn't really count against a? I'm not sure how that works. If that doesn't necessarily count against one of your roster spots, because that's like the emergency third quarterback they just had to have.
Well, let's put it this way. Jake Haener will be on the practice squad. I don't think Brandon Allen will be on the practice squad. So let's say Jake Haener's on the practice squad. So 2 quarterbacks on the active roster. So
I'm talking about. Here's what I was going to go with the thing though, the wide receivers thing. Okay, because I feel like there's a possibility we keep all 4 of those running backs. This is a John Harbaugh team. I think that's a realistic possibility. And if you go in that direction where you keep 4 running backs, do we only keep 5 wide receivers on this team? That's to me.
You factor in Picard and your tight ends because.
Well, yeah.
So Theo Johnson's injured. I don't know if he practiced today. There's no indication that he was.
He's back. He's fine. He's back. I think he was back to practice yesterday, actually.
Okay, so if you keep him, Manhurts obviously is a lock. He's going to be a captain. He's been talked about by John Harbaugh. The X factor is like a guy like Fedoni. Do I want to risk him to the practice squad, right, and have him be exposed? Whereas a guy and also a guy like Picard as well. Those are the spots where I'm saying like if you don't want to keep a 6th receiver. You're going to keep 4 running backs and possibly 4 tight ends or 4 running backs, a fullback. Because think about it like this. How do you measure Ricard? Because he's making the team. And that would leave you with 4 tight ends and or 4 running backs. Because I don't know if you keep him and the tight ends, you're still keeping 4 tight ends because he's probably going to lump in there even though he's a fullback. He's going to be a designated fullback. But in terms of roster numbers, that's where it becomes tricky. So I don't think they're keeping more than 6. Some people say the first time Jordan Renaud said 7, he had Calvin Austin, he had Odell Beckham Jr., he had Braxton Berrios.
They're not keeping 7 at all. That's not happening. That's not happening. They're not keeping 7 wide receivers.
Okay, so that I guess my argument becomes down to this: if you're keeping those 5, let's say Berrios, Slayton, Mooney, Fields, and Neighbors. The 6th receiver comes down to Hodgins, Cambridge, and Odell. If you keep Odell, is he going to be able to keep his mouth shut for being the 6th receiver? Because you may not dress all 6. You may only dress 5 on any given Sunday because you have Isaiah Likely and you have the 2 tight ends that you're going to dress, not to mention Picard and the running backs. You know what I mean? Who Najee Harris is probably going to get a helmet. Cam Scadaboo's probably going to get a jersey, and that leaves your 3rd running back there, right? So now if your 3rd running back is Devin Singletary, I think they should go get Trey Benson, to be honest with you, but that's just me. Even though he went on IR, if they give him an injury center, that's the guy I would go after. But for this exercise, I don't know. Like Odell Beckham, that's what I'm saying about Odell Beckham Jr. to me is a conundrum because obviously he's good enough to probably be on your roster. But if you think he's not good enough, then the 4 guys in front of him, or even the 5 guys in front of him, when you talk about playing time, and you got to keep a guy like Ricard or Theo Thomas Fedoni or whatever because you want to be a little bit more double tight ends and things like that, this is where that roster spot comes down. And are you willing to risk Tyrone Tracy if you like him? I don't really see a world where they keep Tracy, but if you keep Tracy on this roster for running backs, at least one of them is going to play special teams. Both Singletary and Tracy play special teams. And then, of course, the DB side of it all, if you keep a guy like Deontay Banks, I have a kick returner. Where does that leave Odell Beckham Jr. if he's your, let's say, 5th receiver, but in this case, 6th receiver that doesn't do anything? To me, that's going to be more of a distraction than saying, hey, Odell, Chicago needs a receiver. We're going to send you over to Chi-Town where you're actually going to get some playing time.
Well, I don't know. Odell Beckham's been a mystery because people seem to have a lot of mixed feelings about him throughout the preseason thus far. I mean, a lot of people seem to like what they've been seeing. I mean, the numbers might not be showing he's saying too much, but a lot of people seem to like what they've been seeing. His ability, his route running ability, the fact that how he's been getting open at will, pretty much. I mean, you
Slayton was
can't.
in the game.
I mean, Slayton was the leading receiver on Saturday. I get that. I understand that. I'm just saying that this is what people. I'm talking about what people are saying about OBJ.
Right.
Is that they seem to be impressed with what they're seeing. So I just feel like it's gonna be a tough one to figure out decision to make when it comes down to him. And I think Friday is going to be the big ticket for him, man. That's going to be where he has his opportunity to decide if he's going to make this team or not. I think Friday will be very important for him.
Before we close out the show, right, and put a pin in this, I know we've got a few other topics that will wrap up. But my question then to you is, if he balls out on Friday night or whatever they play, Friday or Saturday, whatever it is, I think it's Friday. If he balls out that game and he makes your team, who's he taking snaps from on Sunday? Because if he balls out Friday, that's great. But what does that mean? If guys like Mooney don't play and you put Fields out there, he doesn't play, and let's just say you sit Slayton out there because you're worried about Calvin Austin's injury, right? And you have guys like Xavier Gibson and Daniel Cambridge and Hodgins and let's say Beckham and Barrios play, right? And he goes out there and he's better than all of them. But yet Barrios makes the team because he's the leading punt returner, and you believe he can play a little in the slot. Where does that leave Beckham Jr.? Because at the end of the day, I'd rather have Dylan Cambridge on this team who can play special teams in a pinch if I need to, than a guy like Odell sitting on the bench just having either no helmet or occasionally just being the fifth receiver on the team because he doesn't necessarily return punts. He can do it, but he's not the designated guy. This is where I'm lost with his numbers game. Because if you're keeping the top four, because this is the problem he was going to have regardless of Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin would have made it harder for him. Now, if he makes the team, does it make sense to leave him there at 6 is, I guess, my question. Because if he's not going to play special teams and he's not taking snaps away from the top 4 guys that we talked about, and you have Barrios be your 5th guy as a punt returner, he's going to be there sitting as a 6th. I don't know if Odell Beckham Jr. is going to say, hey, I know I can play. Let me be number 6 on your roster. Whereas the entire NFL, there's injuries across the board and guys are needed in the receiving room. He might have a chance to play somewhere else. Would the Giants give him that opportunity? That's what I'm kind of conflicted.
Well, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I think it's tough. It's just tough to call. I mean, the Giants I'm not used to the Giants having these kind of problems when it comes to shaping up the roster, man. Usually we get to this time of the year and we kind of know who the guys are going to be because the roster has not been good. This is actually a decently put together roster. We brought in a lot of bodies in camp, decent bodies. People are going to be plucking some of these Giant players off the waiver wires when it gets down to cut down. And OBJ, I think he's that type of guy that if he does genuinely make this team because Harbaugh decides that he's earned a spot on this team, I think you're gonna find a way to utilize him. I just don't think you're gonna have him on the team if you don't have a plan to utilize him. And
that's what I mean. If you're running 11 personnel, because it doesn't matter. You can have a plan to utilize him, but if he's just there as a 6th receiver, not getting burned, right? If you're going to utilize him and he's going to take over the Austin reps, and you're going to say he's earned the right to be our slot receiver, and we're going to keep 6 regardless, but he's going to be one of those 6, then I get it. But if he's not that group, right, and he's not necessarily going to do anything, I guess my conundrum with him is he hasn't done anything to take snaps away from the 4 guys in front of him. And if he's just the 5th guy on your team, and I have to force myself to give him the ball, then who am I taking snaps away when Isaiah Likely's out there? I think Theo Johnson's going to be out there a lot, right? I know Mooney's probably going to be out there, Slayton, Neighbors, and most likely Fields because of what they bring in terms of blocking and what they've been doing in camp. I just don't see a spot to force him on the team regardless. So that's why I'm thinking this may be one of those things where he gets traded and he's showing the league I can still play, I can still be on a roster. The Giants, who may need, Greg Newsome and Andrew Phillips and and Art Green. Like, do I lose Art Green for Odell Beckham Jr.? That's a question you're gonna have to ask yourself. Do I lose a guy that might be valuable on this team going forward down the road to a guy who may not be on this team long term past this? That's where these little intricate things are going to come into. Braxton Berrios is a punt returner. He is going to be here for that regardless of next year. But if there's a guy like Art Green who I liked and has shown some flashes and actually had made a couple plays in the game, do I want to lose him in a DB room that's very weak over Odell Beckham Jr., who I could keep my sixth receiver, essentially Isaiah Hodgins, Cambridge, on the practice squad and bring them up if necessary when needed? Right? That's where I'm at with Odell, and that's my question, and that's something that they're going to have to figure out going forward. Is it worth keeping him on the roster at the expense of a guy like an Art Green or something like that, where you're going to have to?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I see your points are very valid. Obviously, they're all valid. It makes sense. I understand exactly where you're coming from with that. But like I said, you look at the practice notes from the day and just see the kind of practice he had, and he clearly was running with the ones at practice. I don't know what that means for Friday's game. If any of the ones are going to play, like if we're going to throw Dart and company out there for a drive for a couple possessions, but he was clearly running with the ones at practice today.
But they highlight what they want to highlight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if Hodgins had a great catch as well. My point is, I'm not going to take away Hodgins' catch because Odell had 4. Yeah. My point is if Hodgins has a good game and Odell doesn't, and you still say, hey, I think I value Odell to be on this team, I guess my thing is the snap share that I'm looking at, because if I believe what I see on this team, what they're going to be, Odell Beckham Jr. is irrelevant to me because he's only going to be the 5th or 6th receiver on the team, and those guys got to play special teams. And our 6th receiver is Berrios, clearly is going to be the punt returner, because he's earned that job. So again, that's where my head's going, and I don't know if I can justify keeping Odell Beckham Jr. as my 6th receiver and trying to force feed him the rock. Now, if that guy gets injured, you pull a hamstring with Mooney, different story. Maybe he gets more burned, but I don't know, man. I'll believe it when I see it, and when I see the numbers, that's when I'm going to have to justify it, because I'm not taking snaps away from the other 4 guys just because I want to feed Odell's ego.
Odell's been a good sport about all of this. He knows he still has to earn his way onto the roster. So I just think if he gets here, if he does make the team, if they come to the decision to keep him on this team, trust me, there's going to be a role for him, because it's just otherwise it just wouldn't make any sense. I mean, to me, it just wouldn't make sense otherwise. But Dominic Zavada, Ben Sauls, I have never been as intrigued by a kicking competition as I am with these 2 guys. What they have been doing in training camp all summer long, man. Today at practice, both of these guys drilled kicks from beyond 60 yards. Like that, if that doesn't just give you a good feeling inside, it should, as a Giant fan, from all the kicking disasters that we've been going through for the last couple of years, man. I don't know what else could, man. I like what I'm seeing. The young guy, Dominic Zavada, undrafted kid out of Michigan, just has hit with the huge big leg. Ben Sauls, he's kind of been pulling away from Ben Sauls lately, but Ben Sauls say, I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going nowhere easy, kid. And
it's good to have. It's a good problem to have with these kickers. And I think one's going to be traded. I think it's a valuable. You don't let Sauls walk away with nothing. Like, if there's somebody that's interested in him, because there's a lot of teams that don't have consistent kickers, don't let him go away for nothing. If you're going to trade this guy, I think they're leaning towards Zavada. Personally, I wouldn't mind either one. I thought we had a kicker in Sauls last year, so if they didn't bring in Zavada, I was okay with Sauls. trying out the spot this year because I saw a lot in him last year because obviously we sucked. So he came in a lot last year and showed. But Zavada seems to be a handpicked guy, and they like his leg, and he's younger, I guess. I just think they're going to lean. So when it's all said and done, the dust settles. I think they're going to go with Savada. But Ben Sauls he's earned a roster spot somewhere, whether it's with the Giants. He could steal who knows? Maybe Zavada pulls a hamstring on Friday and he wins the job. You never know. I'm just saying it's a good problem to have. And I don't believe they're going to I don't think they're going to trade Zavada. It's Ben Sauls to me. I think they're neck and neck. And if they're neck and neck, I think Zavada edges him out. But if Zavada had a good leg but was missing kicks, I would have been like, all right, you can either put him on the practice squad or let him go somewhere else and not worry about it because you have Ben Sauls. But because they're neck and neck, and we didn't really get to see Zavada's leg last week in the game much, right? I think he had a field goal or two, nothing crazy.
Long was like 47, I think was his long.
I think this week you'll see a lot of it. I think those guys are going to be featured on every other kickoff, right? Whether if Ben Sauls kicks off in the first half, Zavada will be kicking off whenever they kick off in the second half, right? I think you're going to see for the first time in a long time this game get a lot of guys who are on the bubble, like an Odell, like a Zavada. They're going to get a lot of burn because people might call for those players, right? And that's why I think you're going to see on Friday is guys on the bubble going to get a lot of burn, especially guys that unless they get actual deals in hand, you're going to see those guys making plays. And I think they're going to, at the end of the day, lean to Zavada because I think he was a coveted guy out of Michigan. They wanted him. This team loves Michigan, and I think they just invested a lot in him. I don't think Sauls was a slouch, but I do believe one of these guys will get us a draft pick.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and I think they need to do that because you're not sneaking either one of them on the practice squad. Yeah. I'll tell you that right now. Neither one of them are getting snuffed. Whichever one of them, if you end up with whichever one doesn't make this squad, they're not clearing waivers. It's been you've already seen teams even throughout the preseason with some kicking issues, and they're not. These guys aren't clearing waivers. One of them, whoever's doesn't make this roster, will be on someone else's.
The Washington Commanders are probably waiting for one of our guys to go because Cade York is not very good either. So if you can give up a 7th round pick in the draft or a 6th round pick for one of these guys to get a decent kicker, like you said, we've seen the kicking woes go. We had guys kick the dirt last year. We had guys getting injured doing nothing. You know what I mean? We've had kickers not on the roster. So I think they'll bring in a practice kicker from someplace else if they can't stash one away, just to have as a guy. But their punter's also kicking ass as well. Like their punter is fucking phenomenal. I told people Jamie Gilliam was ass, and people laughed in my face. This is what a good punter looks like. Okay, watch that guy kick, and you're just like, ooh, he's going to really help us down the road.
Absolutely. Shout out to Jordan Stout. Also, yeah, we got a real punter, man. Real punter, not a joke anymore. That's what I'm loving about this, man. The special teams, the upgrade on the special teams, it's night and day. It's night and day. Pay attention to detail. When you got a grown man in the room, you pay attention to detail, and it's great to see. That's why I can't wait to get this season started. But Adam, what do you expect to see? What do you What do you want to see Friday night from this New York Giants team?
Well, first and foremost, I want to mention one thing. I think this team is playing a lot faster on defense. I think they're playing with a little bit more tempo. I know that Miami was awful last week, but guys like Newman, I want to see him to continue to progress. I thought he's had a solid game last week. I wish he came down with that interception. It would have been a little better and put a little bit more emphasis on his already solid camp, but I want to see him still win the job or Washington win the job. I think Washington's had a good camp that no one's really talking about. He can easily be the starter next to Joanne Holland. I want to see more of Arvell Reese. I think he's going to be a beast. Even if he makes a mistake, he makes it aggressive and he blows people up. When you watch him, he blows people up. I want to continue to see him ascend. I want to see more of Greg Newsome. I liked what I saw out of him against Miami. He's had a phenomenal camp this year. He's been the leading quarter by leaps and bounds, even over Deonte Banks. He's had a good camp, even though Banks has caught up, I guess, to him. Let's see if he can do it. I'm still not sold on Deonte Banks, but he's having a good camp. Let's see him keep having a good camp.
Yeah, he had a good game on Saturday, man. He played good on Saturday.
Listen,
really
against bums. I'll be happy.
You got to play against who he playing against out there, man.
No, I'm not. Listen, you can be it, but when I understand what he's doing, and it's not like he's covering Justin Jefferson out there. I have every right to be.
I think everybody has a tough time covering Justin Jefferson, though, man. Ain't like that would just be a Tay Banks thing, you know what I mean? Ain't like everybody has a hard time covering Justin Jefferson.
My point is, I'm going to wait and see. I'm glad he's having a good camp, and I'm glad that he's fitting into this offense. I'm going to wait and see on him before I crown him. But the other guy I want to see is Adebo. He's had an up and down camp. I want to see him kind of factor in here because I don't want this guy to just be on the roster and be a third corner that doesn't get any burn because Andrew Phillips is there. I thought Phillips was good as well. And my last thing is I want to see Najee Harris. I want to see him get some real time on the offense. And I think you're going to see when he gets in the game a little bit more bounce. And it's going to be, I think that running back position, I think he's going to be number 2 when it's all said and done. And you're going to see that on Friday, barring injury, and the last 2 guys will be fighting for one more spot. And the last guy I want to see if he gets burned is the backup fullback, the converted defensive end that they've made into a fullback. I saw that he played a lot last week, and I think they're looking for a guy to go the Picard route, meaning Picard is an older guy. He, was in his 30s. He may not be able to sustain it every year, and it's good to have a guy to back him up and play that role if need be. So I'm looking forward to seeing that guy as well. So there's a couple of things I want to see. And most importantly, leave with no injuries, please. The Giant game has always been notorious for having somebody go down in the game. That's always important. And I want to see the Jets and how they fare against those backups, because there are some guys on that team. They have a deep receiving core that we could pluck off there. They have solid offensive linemen that we can look into, and some solid players over there that this is an audition for them as well. So I'd like to see what the Jets have in case there's anybody that we need. But it's going to be a fun game, and I'm looking forward to it. As I'm always looking forward to this game. I wish I could go. That's one of the games that is always fun to be at, and get to rival with Jet fans. So I'm excited. Friday can't come any quicker.
Joe says, if you had to wager your bank account on the Cowboys or Giants -2.5, who would you take? If I absolutely had to, that would have to be a gun to my head for me to for this to happen, obviously. But I feel good about my boys, man. I think our defense is very aggressive. And I think we're going to come out there and surprise some people, man, week 1. And I'm starting to feel better and better about that. I understand what the Cowboys have. I respect what the Cowboys have, obviously. But I feel good about what the Giants got. I really do. For the first time in a long time, I feel good about it.
My one thing that I worry about is while I like this defense and I believe in them, they're still learning a system. And if I'm going to say that the Cowboys are learning a system and that gives our team an advantage or whatever, I'm going to have to say the same thing about the Giants learning a system. And I'm a little wary about that offense over there, especially from what I'm hearing out of camp and how they're producing. I don't need them to have a good game. I'm hoping that, their tackle problems still continue, but we'll see. The other thing that concerns me is while the Giants offense is picking up some steam, will they still have some sputtering as they're also implementing a new system as well? So those are the concerns I do believe we can keep up with the Cowboys. I don't think they've closed the gap that much. I do like the talent on our defense. They do have talent on the Cowboys defense as well. And that's what the real thing that scares me offensively is will Quinn Williams return to his all-pro form? And if Kenny Clark is, not a shell of himself, they could really attack that interior line. I think the weakest part of the Giants is on that left side between Runyon and John Michael Schmitz. And that's where I really feel the Giants' weakness is. And that's my only concerns. Other than that, I'm like Mac. I'm fired up. I haven't been this fired up for a team in a while. And I'm looking forward to Sunday Night Football. And we're after this week, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back to you next week, we will be previewing or getting ready. Well, there's 2 weeks to get ready for a game. Maybe we'll do something fun next week because it's not necessarily the game week. So, but we can talk about the cuts and some of the players that made it. So there'll be a lot to talk about next week and how the rosters come together. But like Max said, I'm very excited about this year. Win, lose, or draw, I think the Giants are going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely agree with that, man. And we are going to get ready to get out of here as we're approaching the 2-hour mark. But we're going to get ready to wrap things up. But yes, New York Giants, man, I feel good. Like I said, I think Friday is actually a pretty decent test. I want to see the offensive line, man, get out there and battle against what's a pretty formidable front for the Jets, man. But I also don't know what the Jets game plan, what they got in store. I don't know if they're playing their starters out there either, which obviously would be a good test for the New York Giants offensive line. And just like you said, defensively, I want to see guys getting after it, flying around, man. We haven't seen Brian Burns all preseason. We haven't seen Tremaine Edmonds all preseason. And I'm going to assume we're not going to see him this week either. At this point, I almost feel like we haven't played them yet, so I don't think we're getting don't have much different results this week either coming up with some of those guys. Not really, like I said, ideal for me, but it is what it is. I think these running backs, Najee Harris, I think you hit that nail on the head. I want to see Najee Harris run the football, some real reps against another team. I want to see him I want to see him get tackled and see how he responds and whatnot to that, man. I think these are things that are going to be important that I would like to see on Friday night. Whether we get to see them things on Friday night, because I feel like we're going to get a big dose of Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary as far as the running game goes. Is going to be pretty much those guys, those two, playing most of the game, I feel like. But I would like to see Najee Harris get a little bit of burn, man. And just even if it's only a couple of drives, just to kind of see how, like I said, how he looks, how he seems to hold up physically, coming off of a really big injury, man, from a season ago. So it's just something I think you need to get a look at before you go into Dallas on Sunday Night Football. You any final thoughts, Adam?
Nope. I'm just looking forward to this preseason game and seeing how this roster shapes up and getting ready for Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely, guys. So we appreciate y'all tuning in once again. Make sure y'all don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this thing out, man. Subscribe on all platforms at mine, my channel, MacDaGiantsFan, at Adam's channel, at Adam Costas, and at Hardcore Sports Network. Hit the subscribe button for all of those platforms, please. Don't cost a thing to hit that subscribe, hit that like button, man. And subscribe to the channel, man. Just support the movement, support the cause. Me and Adam will be doing this each and every week for y'all. Each and every Wednesday, we'll be right back at y'all next week. Breaking down these 53s, talking about it, man. Talking about all the waiver wire transactions that's going to take place before we get back to y'all next Wednesday. And it's going to be a lot, guys. It's going to be a frenzy. So we'll have a lot to talk about next Wednesday, man. And we'll see y'all next week. I'm Mac the Giants fan. Super dope co-host Adam Costas.
See ya.
I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants fan. That's MacDa Giants fan. It don't cost a thing to hit that like button. Just do it. Do it.